We all know the basic story. Julius Caesar, the ultimate Roman power player, and Cleopatra, the seductive queen of Egypt. But the real history is far stranger, darker, and more strategic than any Hollywood version. Today, we're uncovering the top 10 hidden truths about Caesar and Cleopatra, the political manipulation, propaganda, and power games that completely rewrite their so-called love story. People like to imagine Caesar and Cleopatra as a tragic romantic couple, star-crossed lovers who defied empires. In reality, their relationship was built on power, survival, and cold calculation. Behind the silk sheets and palace gossip were assassination plots, civil wars, and an entire world hanging in the balance. Here are 10 hidden truths that change everything you think you know about Caesar and Cleopatra. 1. Their first meeting was basically a staged political ambush. Cleopatra didn't accidentally bump into Caesar. She was fighting for her life in a brutal power struggle with her own brother, Ptolemy XIII. Caesar was in Alexandria to settle a civil war, and Cleopatra knew that whoever controlled Caesar controlled Egypt. So she had herself smuggled into his quarters, supposedly rolled up in a rug or a linen sack, not as a romantic gesture, but as a calculated entrance. She bypassed the court, her enemies, and the rules, and appeared directly in front of the most powerful man in the Mediterranean. 2. Cleopatra spoke more languages than Caesar and used that as a weapon. Cleopatra wasn't just beautiful, she was dangerously smart. Ancient sources suggest she spoke multiple languages, including Egyptian, Greek, and several others from neighboring regions. Caesar, for all his genius, was still a Roman general in a foreign land. Cleopatra could talk directly to local priests, merchants, and foreign envoys, while Caesar relied on translators. That meant she always had access to more information than he did, and in politics, information is power. 3. Their romance was a mutual power deal, not a fairy tale. Caesar wasn't some lonely widower looking for love. He was already married back in Rome. Taking Cleopatra as a lover wasn't about romance, it was about strategy. She needed Roman military backing to secure her throne. He needed Egypt's immense wealth, grain, gold, and political influence to fund his wars and reinforce his image. Their relationship was a political alliance wrapped in silk and rumor. 4. Caesarion, their child, was almost certainly presented as Caesar's child. Whether Caesar officially acknowledged him or not, Cleopatra used the boy as living propaganda, an heir that connected Egypt to Rome. The existence of Caesarion contained an implied threat to the Roman Senate and later to Octavian, the future Augustus. If Caesar had a biological son, that son could claim power, and that made the boy too dangerous to live when Caesar was gone. 5. Cleopatra's Egypt was not some exotic fantasy, it was a Roman financial lifeline. People often imagine Egypt as just a backdrop for romance, but it was a superpower in its own right. Its grain fed Rome, its gold fueled campaigns. By aligning with Cleopatra, Caesar wasn't just picking up a lover, he was anchoring his political and military machine to one of the richest kingdoms on earth. That's why the Roman elite panicked. They didn't just see a queen, they saw a foreign monarch embedding herself into the heart of Roman power. 6. Roman propaganda tried to turn Cleopatra into the villain and erase Caesar's role. After Caesar's assassination, his successors, especially Octavian, had a problem. They wanted Caesar's glory, but not his baggage. Cleopatra, as her former lover and mother of his alleged son, became the perfect scapegoat. Roman writers painted her as a manipulative, exotic temptress who enslaved great Roman men. It was easier to blame an Eastern queen than to admit that Caesar himself chose her, worked with her, and benefited from her influence. 7. Their time on the Nile was part romance, part military tour. There's a famous story of Caesar and Cleopatra sailing up the Nile like gods, surrounded by luxury. But beneath the surface, this was a strategic tour. They weren't just enjoying the view, they were visiting temples, garrisons, and cities, sending a clear message: Rome and Egypt were aligned at the highest level. It was soft power on parade, and every local leader who watched that procession understood the new order. 8. Cleopatra survived Caesar's assassination, but lost her most important shield. When Caesar was murdered in 44 BCE, Cleopatra's whole political strategy exploded. Her direct link into Roman power was gone overnight. She had to flee Rome and recalculate everything. Caesar had protected her throne. Without him, every rival, foreign and domestic, smelled blood. This is often glossed over in romantic versions, but it's key. Cleopatra's great love ended with her scrambling for survival, not weeping over poetry. 9. Their relationship paved the way for the next disaster: Antony and Cleopatra. Mark Antony's later relationship with Cleopatra didn't come out of nowhere. Caesar had already established Egypt as a playground of Roman strongmen and a hub of power politics. Cleopatra had already proven she could elevate a Roman status in the East, and that she was willing to bet everything on the right ally. Antony simply stepped into a pattern that Caesar helped create. The tragedy of Antony and Cleopatra is, in many ways, the second act of a drama Caesar and Cleopatra began. 10. The love story is a mask for something darker: the birth of empire. The affair between Caesar and Cleopatra wasn't just two powerful people in love, it was a turning point in world history. Their alliance destabilized the old Roman Republic. It fed paranoia in the Senate. It helped create the conditions that allowed Octavian to take total control and turn Rome into an empire. The romance ended in blood and civil war, and what rose from the ashes was not a love story, but a system where one man ruled everything. In the end, the hidden truth about Caesar and Cleopatra is this: they weren't a mythic couple doomed by love. They were two ruthless survivors who used each other in a dangerous game of thrones. The world remembers the seduction. History remembers the consequences. If you want more dark, unfiltered takes on the stories you thought you knew, make sure to like the video and subscribe.